Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the School of Humanities panel session, The Value of an NTU Humanities Degree. I am Anne Nicole, the SOH Student Club President, and I will be your MC and moderator for this session. Now, before we proceed, I would like to remind participants who have yet to change your display name to kindly change it to your full name. You can do so by following these simple steps on the screen. Sorry. All right, so next we have a few house rules set for this virtual session, and please spend some time to read through them. Sorry, give us a moment. All right, so let's go through all the different panelists that we have for this session. Let me introduce them. And yes, panelists, once I call your name, please remember to wave and give your widest smile when I call upon you, okay? Now, first of all, we have Associate Professor Daniel Jernigan, Director of Lifelong Learning, Careers and Internship.
Thanks, Anne. Yeah, hi, everyone.
And secondly, we have Kenneth, who graduated in 2011. He is now the Regional Manager for Partnership and Sustainability at NG Asia Pacific.
Hi, everyone. Nice to meet you.
Next, we have Rati, who graduated in 2010. Now, she is now the Subject Head for English Literature at Dunman High School.
Hi, everybody.
And last but not least, we have Jared, who graduated in 2020. He is now pursuing the Master of Science in International Public Policy at University College London.
Hi all.
Now, we have received many questions from you guys during the registration period. Thank you for sending in all your questions. We are very happy to answer them in this panel session, and thank you very much once again for your enthusiastic participation. Now, before we proceed to address all the questions that you have, let us invite the panelists once again to give a very brief introduction of themselves, okay? Jared, would you like to go first?
Sure. So my name is Jared. I just graduated last year with a degree in philosophy, and I decided to switch track over to do something more public policy related, because I had always had an interest in political sciences and how philosophy shapes our narrative. Currently, I'm doing online learning with University College London, so I'm having virtual classes at the UK time zone, and I'll be done at the end of this year because masters in the UK are only 1 year long. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Jared. Next, can we have Rati?
Okay, sure. So I'm Rati, and I am the subject head for English literature in Dunman High School. So I graduated from NTU, went off into teaching, and then took a year off to do my master's in the UK as well in post-colonial studies. And I come back again to teaching, and now I'm in Dunman High School. So technically, as a subject head, basically, I'm sort of executing a vision for the department. I take care of my teachers who are doing lit under me, and I'm also sort of working closely with the head of department in the English department in the school. Yep, so that's basically it.
Thanks, Rati. Next, can we have Kenneth?
Hi, I'm Kenneth. I'm the Regional Manager for Sustainability and Partnership for NG, Asia Pacific region. So basically, my job entails that I take care of decarbonizing the assets of my company. So my company predominantly dwells in clean energy services and decarbonizing our clients through reducing their energy consumption and and through the supply chain. So I graduated in 2010, 2011. So I started my career in public sector, then I moved on to the private sector, been around halfway around the world, and now going back to Singapore to help decarbonize the economy in Singapore. Yeah.
Thanks, Kenneth. Finally, can we have Professor Jernigan?
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here with you today. Unfortunately, we still are doing this all by distance because of the ongoing epidemic. Anyway, I'm Professor Daniel Jernigan. I've been at NTU now for 15 years. It's really good to see one of my former students, Rathi, here, talking to you all today, who I haven't seen in several years now. But anyway, one of my portfolios right now is the internship. Which has taken on a new scope, okay, especially with the incoming students, because the internship going forward will be compulsory, and that's one of the things that we'll be talking about, okay? I think it's essential that this has happened, okay, because one thing that NTU has noticed over the years is that there's a correlation between those who find full-time employment and those who take on an internship, okay? So it should prove very beneficial to all of you that it is compulsory. It has encouraged us to look very deeply into the internship program to make it as good as it could possibly be. And I've been working on that very hard with some of my colleagues here at NTU. We're expanding the number of the options for students, both in terms of organizations that you can go and work for. Okay, the list keeps getting longer and longer. And one of the things that I think hadn't really been done previously is that we're working very hard to get internships directly related to the arts and the humanities. Okay, I don't think it's in any way essential, okay, that a student do work that's directly related to the arts and humanities, okay, because as humanities students, you will be developing skills that will serve you well no matter what industry you go into, okay, but it does give you interesting options and opportunities. We're also expanding, okay, prior to now, our students have only been able to do 10-week internships, but we're going to be offering a full semester internship going forward, a 24-week internship, both local and international, okay? And so these are some of the exciting things that will be coming online for this incoming group of students, okay?
Thank you so much, Prof. And thank you to all the panelists. Very looking forward to all of your answers. So we will be starting to answer your questions soon, okay? And during this session, do continue to send in your questions if you have any. And for participants in our Zoom virtual room, you can either leave a question in our chat box or activate your raise hand function. And participants who are watching this session at the open house microsite, please leave your questions in Slido found at the bottom of this video. And without further ado, let's start with our very first question of this session, and that is, how would you know if the job or master program which you have chosen after graduation is suitable for you? Now, let's start with our panelists. We've got Rathi.
Okay, for me, the answer is pretty simple actually, because I go by this idea that I need to like what I do and I need to enjoy what I do. So the idea that I knew from the start that I wanted to teach, because I knew I couldn't be in a desk-bound job, and I knew I needed to interact with people, and I was also very interested in what I was doing, which is literature. And I really like working with text. So I thought it was the greatest fit for me to be a teacher. I know it's the most common and obvious answer for a late graduate, but I'm being very genuine here by saying that I knew exactly what I wanted to do even before I went to the uni. So actually the path was pretty simple for me. So in this sense, it was more of my personality and my interests actually that I knew I was suitable for this.
Thanks so much, Rathi. Thank you for being so honest about your answer. How about Kenneth? What's your perspective on this?
Firstly, I think the case for Rathi is a very is a very nice story because I think she clearly knows what she wants and she really just go for it, and she end up in a job she really loves. I think this is really amazing. For the rest of us, we might not be so fortunate because we might not know what we really want. And part of the questions that I always ask myself, and also I ask all the younger colleagues that join my company is that how do you know what you want to do, right? How do you choose the course and go into the course knowing that this will bring you to a certain outcome? But I think more than often the answer is no. I think more importantly, we should be looking into education that actually has transferable skills, not just the topic, the theme of the major that you are in, but what is behind the lessons and the values that the professor wants to impart on us. So I guess there is no there's no direct answer, but I will say that uh, don't be fixated on what you study and let it define your career. Yeah. More importantly, look at the skill sets, the transferable skill sets that your major brings to you and how it can bring you forward in your career life. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. Now, of course, we heard from Rati and Kenneth in terms of their career, but we've also got a master's student here. Of course, Jared is doing a master's in UCL. So, Jared, what's your take on this?
Um, I think if anybody is considering a humanities degree in the first place, you must be pretty interested in the things that you want to study because it's very focused. It's either English or history. And I super agree with Kenneth. I think regardless of which program you choose, it's really about the skills and values, the skill sets that you take away. And I think this is one of the values of studying humanities is that whatever I studied in humanities, the kind of critical thinking, the kind of analysis, you bring it over, it actually applies to any kind of program. So the kind of cross-referencing I did back in philosophy, and I apply it now to my international public policy program, it is super relevant and it's really helpful because it helps you sieve through what is nonsense and what is fact. And I think it's a very relevant skill, I think, for any student today. For me, I chose the master's program because I was interested in it a lot like Rati, and I think interest and passion plays a very big part in whether you are going to do whatever you're going to do. You know, at least try to be interested in it. And if you can't, just fake it till you make it.
Thank you so much, Jared. I like that. Fake it till you make it. That's the way to go. Now, of course, we heard from Prof earlier that there's going to be a new compulsory internship. So in that vein, I think a lot of people will be very interested to know more about internship in general. And this is the second question. Is it difficult to pass an internship? And what is the minimum requirement to pass an internship attachment? Now, Prof, what's your take on this? Oh, sorry, Prof, you are currently muted.
Yeah. I've been working with the internship for several years here, and as long as I've been working with internship students, the only reason that someone has failed to pass the internship is because they just quit going to work. Okay, so the low bar, right? The bar you certainly have to get over is fulfilling your assignment, right? Fulfilling your job scope. And I think that should be fairly obvious. There are a couple of other things that you have to do. You have to write several reports during the course of the semester, during the course of the 10 weeks or the 24 weeks. You have to some reports that you file with your employer and some reports that you file with your NTU academic supervisor. Now, those reports, I mean, if you're a good enough writer to get to your second or your third year of university, or even to get into university, the reports that you write won't be very onerous or demanding, okay? They should be fairly straightforward and fairly easy. So I think the thing that you want to focus on when you go into your internship is to focus on contributing as much as possible to the ethos, to the environment, to the work plan of your employer, pitching in every which way you can. And I think the reports will kind of naturally write themselves. So I don't think it's anything to really have much anxiety about.
Thanks, Prof. And on that note, this brings me to my third question, or a lot of people's question on internship as well, and that is, does the type of internship have an impact on our future career choice? If so, will I get to choose which internship to take for the compulsory attachment program? So can I have our panelists, perhaps Rati and Kenneth, to share your internship experience if applicable? Maybe Rati, you want to go first?
Yeah, I think, okay, so I was in NTU a very long time ago. So when I did my internship, I think it was in 2008. And at that time, it wasn't called internship, it was called professional attachment. I'm not sure whether it's the same now, but we did have like a list of companies that we could apply to that was given to us by NTU. And they also gave us an option to go out and source our own companies. So, the question of whether the type of internship has an impact on our future career choice, I think it definitely does, no matter which path you take and what internship you do, because, the world is, we can't be in silos in the world. And whatever you work, wherever you work, there are skills that are transferable, and it definitely does kind of impact your future career choice, because in the university you could like experiment perhaps, and go in for a internship that you wouldn't normally, or you didn't think you would normally consider, and lo and behold, and when you're there you get some epiphanies and you realize, what, maybe this industry is for me, or maybe this industry is not for me. And of course, that's going to impact your future career choice. And even if you don't continue in the industry, you would have networked, and that could help in your future career choice, because I did my professional attachment with a theater company, which I knew I would never choose as a permanent career choice, because unfortunately the salary is not going to be that good. So I decided, why not, in the uni, just try out a non-profit theater organization. And well, surprisingly, they put me in accounts, and I'm so bad with numbers. And I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of things when I was there, and I made so much friends, and whom I actually could tap on later in my career to kind of like do a lot of things at work as well. So yeah, my straightforward answer would be yes, it does have an impact. It has a good impact. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Rati. Kenneth, how about what's your internship experience like?
To be honest, I didn't join any internship program when I was in NTU. I think I'm very heartened to see that over the years, the program has become more structured, and now Prof is actually heading this internship program. And but I do have friends who went on internship program and they landed their first job through internship. So I guess the whole employment climate over there, it's actually getting more challenging over the years. So a lot of graduates, they have to go on 1-year contract position before they get converted to a permanent position. So, but people with internships are actually favored much better than those without. In fact, recently in my company, I hired an intern from NTU Philosophy and to work on sustainability. And his major has nothing to do with the work that we are doing. But I think I'm very impressed by the interns initiative to actually promote something, and that is clearly not his forte, but able to actually transfer the critical thinking from philosophy into a brand new topic like sustainability to him. So I guess in terms of employability, I think having an internship will really will be a deal breaker. Yeah.
Thanks, Kenneth. Now, Prof, what's your take on this?
Yeah, as far as getting an internship that meets your interests, that's why we're working so hard now to expand the possibilities for our students, okay? And so certainly we will do everything we can to find something that suits you, okay? But beyond that, I think the most important thing, okay, is that you take the internship seriously, that you remember that you do have something to offer these people, okay? Communication skills, critical thinking skills, these are skills that will serve you well no matter what kind of employment that you seek, okay? And I think what some of the panelists said here makes a lot of sense, okay? And that is that, I mean, if you put yourself into this organization as deeply and thoroughly as you can, one thing you might learn is that maybe you don't want to work for this type of organization. Okay, you might learn one of two things. You might learn that you do, and it might lead to a specific job, in which great. Okay, many of our students who go on internship end up working for those organizations, but you might learn that you don't want to. Okay, and that can be equally important. Hopefully, ideally, you will still take some skills away from that. Okay, which Rathi clearly did, right? Forced out of her comfort zone, she still took something away from it. Okay, and so even if you learn that you don't want to, I think that's still valuable in at least two respects. First of all, you will still have to adapt your skill set to their needs. And second, when you do go on the job market, maybe you strike out in a different direction.
Thank you so much, Prof. Now, on that note of being in the job market and searching for a job, especially after you graduate, there's a lot of anxiety. And this brings me to my next question, and that is, how has the humanities degree helped you gain a competitive edge at job interviews or postgraduate application? Can we start with Kenneth?
Yeah, sure. So my bachelor's degree was in Chinese studies. So there was this stereotype that goes with Chinese studies students. So there was I recall it was during my convocation, and I was taking a taxi ride to NTU, and the taxi driver was asking me about my major. I said I did Chinese studies. Then the taxi driver was saying that, oh, you are either going to be a teacher or going to be a journalist. So, but that makes me feel very strongly about my career choice, and I wanted to prove maybe the taxi driver wrong, that being a Chinese study graduate, I can actually do a lot more than that. So I went into sustainability, partnership, and business development as well. So it has proven to be quite useful, because a lot of people will think that, oh, when you do Chinese study, you're only supposed to be able to read Chinese really well, hold Chinese conversation really well. But actually, there's a lot more about that. There's a lot of geopolitical elements. The only thing that is Chinese is that the medium is Chinese. It's to the Chinese language. But there's a lot of topics on geopolitical concerns, philosophy, and history defines all of us. So that gives me a lot of opportunity in my job, because whenever I need to front a geopolitical issue, even not in China, it could be in a place like Myanmar or India, my company will choose to front me first. They will say, kind of, why not you help the company solve this problem? Because it seems to me that you have a critical thinking mind and you can adapt on the ground. So I guess I would say a huge part of the training comes from my time in NTU. Yeah.
Thanks so much for your perspective, Kenneth. How about Jared? What's your take?
I think in terms of postgrad application, the humanities degree is special because we are like the jack of all trades but master of none. Like, for example, if you are a chemical engineer, you can go for a chemical engineering job. You are not going to go into banking or any other sector, right? But if you're a humanities student, you really are open to all sorts of experiences, and it really helps you because, like I mentioned earlier, it's not about the subject that you learn. The subject is just the medium, right? It's what you learn from the subject that's important, like what Kenneth alluded to just now. And it's these things that are unreplaceable or irreplaceable by things like robots or AI, things like how to think critically, how do we analyze, how do we tell fact from fiction, and all these really help because even in class now, I see students from super diverse backgrounds, and the philosophy and humanities background really helped me have this competitive edge because nobody does I think nobody does thinking better than philosophers because it's all we do. We just think, and this kind of the kind of structured methodological thinking really helps you in terms of firstly application because you know what the application is asking for, and secondly, even though I'm studying in a field that's completely different from what I did in my undergrad, the skills learned in say doing readings really quickly or analyzing things really quickly, it has helped me really so much in my studies. I think right now, yeah.
Thanks for that, Jared. Now, we know that Kenneth, you studied Chinese studies, and Jared came from philosophy, and Rathi, you graduated with an English degree. So, how has that degree given you a competitive edge?
Oh, well, I think first of all, a humanities student or English student, we stand out because we speak well. So we're good communicators. That's one thing. And it's very, very important. So the moment you open your mouth and you start speaking and you're articulate, you've already got the attention because first impression counts. And also at the same time, I think like what the other two panelists have said, humanities graduates, really, we do have a certain perspective, we can open to perspectives. I think because we've heard so much perspectives while we're studying, and the discussion is always so robust, and a lot of times we are encouraged to kind of like dabble in the gray area and not be like in a black or white situation. So because of that, the perspectives we have, the spontaneity that we have, and interestingly, I find humanities graduates, and I mean even my own students are not even graduates yet. The arts and the humanities kids, they always have this sense of wonderment, like they're always like wondering, and yeah, they're thinking like Jared, like they're thinking, and so that already sets an impression. It actually gives off a certain kind of like aura, and I think for a lot of interviewers and usually that particular session that they have with the humanities graduate is always very captivating for them. And that's how you end up employing a philosophy student for something that is totally not related to philosophy, because they stand out. Yeah. So we definitely have a competitive edge, because I think as a humanities graduate, you tend to, there's what we study in, I mean, even the word humanities, there's human in it. So, it's the idea of like the central core thing here is like, you are very human, and I think that's what people need in this day and age. Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you so much, Rati. Now, this brings me also to my next question. We've been talking about how having a humanities degree helps us with our career, gives us a competitive edge, but also how does an arts and humanities background benefit us both holistically and for our careers? Now, can we start with Prof, perhaps?
Yes, yeah, thank you. I mean, in terms of holistically, I think that one thing that Jared was saying and that Kenneth was speaking to is extremely true. Okay, and that is that there's no way in which you're pigeonholed into a particular type of employment when you have a humanities degree. Okay, Jared almost put it similarly to how I often put it. Okay, certainly you might be anxious about employment because you might think that the only thing that you can do is English, right? But that's just not true at all. I mean, what you need to do is be creative in your job search. Okay, it is true that as Jared said, if you have a chemical engineering degree and you're looking for a job, you look for a chemical engineer wanted, but you never see English wanted unless it's teaching. Right. And teaching is an important part of the overall picture, but it's certainly by no means the complete picture when it comes to English studies or history or philosophy. And that's where the holistic element comes in. Okay. Our students do very good on the job market because, as Kenneth and as Jared and as Rathi said, they're very good communicators. They're very good critical thinkers. They have a global perspective on human affairs and human events, okay? And these are soft skills, so to speak, that they can take with them to any type of employment they want to pursue in the future. Consider, for instance, a bank, okay? Let's say that OCBC knows it's going to be hiring 10 graduates next year. Yeah, they might choose 8 or 9 even from finance or from business, but they might choose 1 from humanities, okay? Because they also need good communicators, okay? They also need good critical thinkers. And I'm sure that Rathi and Kenneth and Jared all have friends who have, when they've gone out and got employment, have got jobs in business and industry and in civil service, okay? Because these organizations know that people from the humanities will fill certain types of needs for them, okay? They will be the first they'll be the face of the company when it comes to communication and critical thinking, such as Kenneth was talking about, for instance. Okay, so I think that's to me, that's the overall value of the holistic education that we offer to our students.
Thanks so much, Prof. How about Rati? What's your perspective on this?
I mean, I'm totally in agreement with it, of course, because I have a lot of friends who did the English degree and who went out to do a lot of other things that were not journalism related, not teaching related. And in fact, a lot of them say, "Why are you going down the teaching route?" I said, "Hey, I want to do this, so just don't get in my way. You guys go your way, I go my way." But they've gone all over the place. I know I have a friend who graduated with English and she's doing a PR and she works in Africa. So, like you've got like, I think the humanities basically opens up your options. The world's your oyster, I feel, with a humanities degree. And on top of communication, you're also good writer. So I think that's also a skill that is very important as well. So yeah, I think we definitely have a competitive edge. It's about how you want to view it and how you want to kind of engage in a job search. You just got to be like what Professor Jernigan said, you got to be creative about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Rati. How about Kenneth? What's your take?
Oh, I just want to echo Prof's point on when a bank hire maybe 8 students from maybe MBS, that they will tend to hire at least 2 or even more from SOH. I think this is because increasingly more corporations are trying to avoid the pitfalls of groupthink. So if everybody were to study the same thing, come out with the same perspective, then they are not able to assess the possible business risks, and hence a lot of companies are trying to avoid that. So and also secondly, I think being in SOH, it gives you perspective into different topics, considering different social, political, or environmental, geographical context. And what I learned from my study is that to really consider a problem seriously, you need to consider the history and the context that a certain statement is being made. So I think in my time during SOH, so I think there was a lot of talking about to understand the context, to understand the history. So you don't have to be a history student to focus on history. You can also be a Chinese student or an English literature student to also study about history of a certain era, just to give you context about what the true issue of the society at that point in time is. So I guess it's very important to have a very holistic education that gives you more flavor into your career life. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Kenneth. Now we've heard from Rati in terms of English and Kenneth in terms of Chinese, of how having a humanities degree, what other career areas we can venture into other than being a teacher, being a journalist. Very curious to hear from Jared. Do you have any philo friends, even yourself? What other industries do you think philosophers can venture into?
This is interesting. I remember doing open house last year, and this was the most asked question. If I do a philosophy degree, what am I gonna do? Um, and I always joke like I say, you can apply for either KFC or McDonald's, and then they might promote you to manager. Okay, that's not true. I right now, after even graduating in the middle of 2020, I have friends. I have one friend working in marine and offshore doing oil. I have a friend working at ICA now. I also have another friend who is doing work at an investment bank. And they're all fresh graduates. So they graduated in the middle of COVID, and now they have, I think, decent, well-paying jobs. I mean, it's true. Sometimes it's harder to find a job because maybe you don't like the job, you don't like the hours, you don't like the pay, and there are many, many reasons why people don't go into the traditional routes. For myself, I'm in a non-traditional route. I'm in the Republic of Singapore Navy. I serve as a naval officer, and and yeah, so I enjoy my job, and I think, like I mentioned earlier, with a philosophy degree or with a humanities degree, the options for you are really endless. It's really endless. I have friends in civil service, in the private sector. I have friends who go out and start their own businesses, and it's not just like we say it for the sake of saying. Again, I like the chemical engineer example. Like a humanities degree, you can really do anything you want, but because the education you get is so diverse. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Jared. And you mentioned that, in humanities, what we learn is so diverse. The skills are very transferable across different career options. So my question to you guys is, looking back at your whole career journey, I want you to name one skill which you have picked up in your future, in your not future, in your humanities class that you have taken before that has benefited you the most. Rati, would you like to go first?
Sorry, and I mean, there was some noise while you were speaking. Could you repeat the question again? Oh, and sorry, there was some noise when you were speaking, so I couldn't really hear the question. Could you repeat the question again?
I'm so sorry. Okay, I think it was my earphone. So sorry about that. So, my question to you guys is: looking back at your whole career journey, name one skill that you have taken or you have acquired in one of your humanities class that have benefited you greatly, and one skill that you have brought over into your career.
Okay, so I don't know whether it's a skill or more so a value, but I know that while I was in NTU and I was in my tutorial groups and stuff, I learned to develop this boldness to kind of like venture an interpretation. You know, like when I read something, or when a classmate's saying something, that after about 1 or 2 years, I became bolder when I kind of like debated and discussed and opened up like a Pandora's box sometime, when I'm like, okay, like let's guys, let's look at this again. What do you mean by this? So I think that has really kind of helped me in my job now. I mean, as a teacher, I don't just teach. I'm also part of the school's corporate relations team. I'm also the teacher in charge for the student council. So I'm in student leadership. And also as a middle manager, you do like a lot of executing a vision, helping the organization. So during those times, right, it helps when you have this value, this skill, because you are not you're unafraid of moving away from the rigid boxes, and you're creative. You become creative, and you kind of you're more willing to kind of take a risk and do something that would otherwise not have been thought about. And I think that is the most important skill I've taken back. And it's not just something that helps me in career, it also helps me in my life as well, personally, with relationships and stuff like that. So, I think this is the one skill that I really treasure from my time in NTU. And this was something that, because I also minored in history, I also did linguistics on the side. I realized that all of these disciplines forced me to do that. And I think I eventually came out of the box and became bolder, to kind of like try new things. Yeah.
Thanks, Rati. How about Kenneth? What's the one skill that you value the most or acquired that you've brought into your career?
There was this module, I'm not sure if it's the same module code. It's called HC342. I think it's something like China in Asia. So it's talking about one of the chapter was about how China, alongside with Vietnam, Malaysia, Philippines, they all claim the South China Sea, and they all believe in a certain perspective that the South China Sea belongs to them. So a very interesting thing is that in international law, every countries you must respect every country's sovereignty, and I think what I've taken away from this module is that everybody will perceive their reality on their own, from their end, and there's no way you can tell people otherwise. So it makes me think in other people's perspective, and when I go to work, when I have to go into a negotiation, I always consider what is the reality for other people, what is the reality for my partner or for my client. How can I make my reality and their reality converge? So it's something not so related, but yeah, it's transferable to my day-to-day job. Yeah.
Thanks, Kenneth. Now, we also received a question related to postgrad studies for those of you guys thinking ahead. And the question is, how do you choose which program to take in postgraduate studies? Must it be related to my bachelor's degree? And I think the best person to answer this question first would be Jared. Jared, do you want to go?
So for postgrad, it depends on what kind of postgrad you want to do. I had two routes, the PhD route or the master's route. If you're doing a PhD route, you want something that you're more interested in doing research and you're interested in staying in academia for a slightly longer period of time. The master's degree is more like a technical certification to certify you that you are at least competent, I think, in this very specific field of study. And it's usually seen as a technical certificate, I think, in the private circle. So for me, I decided with international public policy after shopping around for many master's degrees. And because firstly, I'm interested in international relations. I'm in the defense sector. I have to be interested in international relations. Secondly, I've always been very interested in normative work, meaning how should governments operate and what is the best way for governments to operate. And you see people online, they criticize the government. They say, no, the government should have done this, the government should have done that, but they don't offer any constructive policy options of their own. And I thought, it'd be quite interesting to see how public policy is actually done and how is it constructed. And I really just followed my interest, and just nice UCL had this blend of international relations and public policy, and I just went for that. I thought it was a great opportunity. I have other friends. Jiamin, my senior, actually did her master's in public policy at Lee Kuan Yew School of Public Policy. And then I have other friends doing masters in a variety of different things. Some of them continue to do masters in philosophy. I have a friend doing his Juris Doctor masters, which is like a law masters for him to practice law. So a lot of it is really what you're interested in. And you must think two steps ahead and ask yourself, does this benefit me in future? And even if it doesn't benefit you, you have to enjoy what you're studying. So I think there are two ways of thinking about it. Yeah.
Thanks, Jared. How about Prof. Jernigan? What's your perspective on this?
We have from my side, from the academic side, okay, taking in graduate students, we have taken master's students and even PhD students who have had studies in other humanities disciplines, okay? So we've had people from linguistics go on to take a master's. We've had from communication studies go on and do a master's. And some of those have been our best students, right? Because they come to us with a different perspective, and it's a different perspective that can be helpful. In general, you wouldn't go too far afield, okay? If someone from English wanted to do a PhD in chemical engineering, there's that, our kicking boy for the day, you wouldn't get accepted. And vice versa would be very difficult as well, right? If someone from chemical engineering or from physics wanted to do a PhD in English studies. So, the short answer is that you can, okay? The long answer is that you need to be conscious of the fact that whatever lateral move you want to make from one discipline to another, the people who are reviewing your file will need to be convinced that you're ready and able and have the ability to pursue that degree. And if they're convinced of it, then they'll probably take you. For instance, if you have a minor in that other subject, okay? Or if maybe you've worked for a number of years, okay? Maybe you want to go into business and you want to do an MBA, and you've worked for a number of years in a certain capacity in an organization that suited that. Then yeah, some of these moves are certainly possible. Yeah.
Thank you, Prof. Now, going back to career prospects and job search, I think one very popular question was, as compared to other disciplines like engineering and business. So sorry, it's the light. Okay, so as compared to other disciplines like engineering and business, is the job search journey more tedious for humanities graduates? Now, Prof, what do you think?
I mean, my best answer to this, okay, and I'm seeing it from the other side, right? As a supervisor to students who are going out and looking for jobs, rather than as someone who's looked for jobs themselves, is I don't think it's more tedious, okay? It does require a certain amount of creativity, okay? A certain amount of flexibility on the part of the student, a certain amount of understanding that the content that they've been learning for 3 or 4 years might not be immediately relevant to the job that they're pursuing unless they're becoming a teacher such as Rathi, okay? But many of our students don't go that path. And so they need to be conscious of the fact, and we said this before already today, that they have a set of skills, right? Call them soft skills, okay? That make them suitable for any type of job. So what they need to do is just be open to any sort of job where it's clear that what the employer really wants is someone with good communication skills, good critical thinking skills, and a worldview. So I don't know that tedious, okay? Certainly it's different, okay? I will admit that it's different than if you're getting a job where the skill set is more directly related to the content that you pursued. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Prof. Now, can we hear from our seniors' perspective, Kenneth and Rathi? Kenneth, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So totally concur with Prof. Prof mentioned that when graduates, they apply for a job, they have to be really creative. So over the years, I've seen a lot of CVs, and some of the CVs, they are just stating out, it's totally okay to be fresh grad, but if you just state out the modules that you have studied, then it might not be really attractive to the employer. So if you're very creative, right, you can actually highlight the part about the internship that brings out and how maybe studying for a certain module brings out a certain attribute of yourself that is relevant to the work. So that is something I think is very important. Secondly, I feel that we have to also look at the entire career journey. So so suppose you are engineering graduates or maybe you are accountant. Once you graduate from university, then it's quite easy to find a job because they are always in need of fresh grad, like to be accountant, to be an engineer. But what I want to encourage is that we look beyond the starting phase of your career. We look at mid-career. I have a lot of friends who are lawyers. They specialize at the very beginning of their education, and they graduate to be a lawyer. But 2 years down the road, they realize that they don't like the legal work. So they struggle quite a bit, and they felt that I put so much resources into this, and I'm only capable of a certain type of job. Whereas for other degrees like engineers, but for SOH graduates, like you can be in PR, you can be a marketer, you can be a BD personnel. The mobility of a career, mid-career wise, is fantastic. No other college or schools will give you that kind of, or faculty that will give you that kind of mobility in your career. So so I mean, if you are clear of what you want to be a lawyer, a very early part of your life, then go for it by all means. But if you're still unclear and you want to enjoy the kind of flexibility, the mobility to move into different position, because increasingly we're talking about, robots are taking over our jobs, AIs are taking over our jobs. What is so valuable about the human factor that the robots cannot replicate? Is it about the relationship building? Is it about how the critical thinking? Is it about how we can market things to human? So I think there's the possibility is just limitless. Yeah, so I just got to end here. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kenneth. How about Rathi? What's your opinion?
So I think it will be only tedious if you limit yourself. So if you really want to just be at a particular space, and you're not going to get to that space, and then yes, it's going to be really tedious. But it doesn't have to be, actually. I think I think the humanities will teach us that there is no one answer, there's no one way. There are many ways, and a lot of times we are very blinded by the jobs that we can see, like visible jobs. We don't see the invisible jobs because it's not just the visible jobs that exist in the world. There are a lot of things happening in the background, and they are equally important, equally thought-provoking, equally rewarding. So yeah, so like what Professor Jernigan and Kenneth have very, very nicely kind of summed up, the process will only be tedious if you make it tedious. I feel, I think you're definitely going to have a lot of options, and especially in the world today, like what Kenneth said, where everyone's talking about how AI is replacing human beings, then well, it just means that I think our positions all the more valuable because we have the soft skills that I don't think the robots are going to be able to mimic. If you ask me. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Rati. Now, in that vein of finding a job that is very relevant to your degree, I think this question may have some overlaps to your previous answers, but I'm just going to post it out anyway. And this is a question that says, does taking a humanities degree means the work industry has to be related to it? So let's say if I'm an English student, does the industry that I'm going for has to be relevant in English? Now, Kenneth, would you like to share your perspective?
I don't think it's limited, but like what Rafi mentioned earlier, I think it's the self-limiting factors that actually restrict us from finding a job. And nowadays, when you have a company, when you want to have a canteen, perhaps, right? You don't need to hire your own chef. You outsource the entire food service to someone else. You don't need to have a designer to be a full-time staff of your company. You also outsource the design work out. So we are living in an age of outsourcing things to other people. And when you are just a specialized engineer, perhaps, right, then the scope is actually very limiting. And if you are a very efficient project manager, then you can actually open up a lot of more opportunities. So I guess I don't think this is a limiting factor, and I feel that what you should be looking at is that how do you make yourself relevant to the company that you're applying for? Yeah.
Thanks, Kenneth. How about Prof. Jernigan? What's your take on this?
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. Okay, and I think that what it comes down to is being creative, being innovative, being open to other possibilities, pushing yourself, in new directions. There are other things I think that you can do. Okay, you can take a minor in something that you think might expand what your CV looks like. You can, the internship will certainly help, and the more seriously you take that internship, the better it will make your CV look. Okay, but I think the real challenge that a humanities student has when going on the job market is one that is easily overcome, okay, which is that they need to look at what their skills are, they need to remember what those skills are, and they need to put those skills into the CV the way that Kenneth was talking about, making it clear what they have to offer to these to their employers. And I think the students that do that, that remember that they didn't just learn some obscure 17th century lyric in that literature course, okay? That they learned much more than that, that they learned how to communicate that they learned how to critically investigate what was going on in that text, and that they will be able to bring that skill to whatever investigation they're involved in at their new employment. The students that are able to build that into their CVs are the ones that do well. And I should emphasize that NTU, over the years, this is a lesson that NTU has had to learn, I think, and it has learned very well. Okay, we have a careers office, and the careers office is in continual communication with us about this point. Okay, how can they help our students get jobs? And this is the same conversation that we have with them. And so when students come to us or they go to the careers office, we've become very good at helping them write creative CVs that show what their true strengths are.
Thank you so much, Prof. Now with that, we are actually nearing the end of our session, but before we close, we shall answer one more question, okay? And this question is pretty interesting. It is honestly not too relevant to the topic of today's session, but I think it's a very popular question that people are asking, and I think I would like to pose this question to all of the panelists to answer, okay? And this is, does it benefit to have an arts diploma background before joining SOH? So other than Prof, maybe perhaps the three other panelists, you guys are our seniors. Maybe you can give some advice from a senior to junior perspective. Now, perhaps we can start with Prof.
Does it benefit? I really don't think that it does. Okay, it is true that most of our students who come to SOH have had their primary educational background in some emphasis in the humanities. This is just because, you know, once you start to go in a direction, it's common to keep going in that direction. But it's not always the case. And the ones who transfer to us from maybe the more science background generally do very well. And I think one of the reasons that they do well is that even in our studies, we don't restrict content, okay? Sure, in literature, I'm a literature professor, we read books, right? That's what we do. But we read books about a number of different subjects, okay? One of the courses that I teach is science and literature. And it's not even a science fiction course. It's a class about how science and scientific theories have influenced writing over the years, okay? And someone who enters that course who has a background in biology or physics brings a different angle to that course. And I'm sure that this is true in philosophy, where philosophy of science is an important part of the content, and it's true in history, where we have history of science. And so, I mean, I think that just as our students go out and can pursue any type of discipline, we're also accepting of other disciplines coming into the School of Humanities.
Thank you so much, Prof. How about Rati?
Well, I think that's the beauty of humanities, right? At the undergraduate level, I mean, I've seen many converts. So like even when I was studying, I had friends who were primarily from the science stream, and they've done well in the subjects. Not that they haven't done well in it. They've done really well in it, but then they realized like they want to make the switch, and they excelled as well. And I've always been very jealous of them. But you know, the point is that I think you don't I agree that you don't really need an arts background or an arts diploma or, you know, something like that to qualify in a undergraduate course in the School of Humanities, because I think with the nature of the humanities and the nature of the arts, it allows for us to kind of like you know, flourish, because ultimately, I mean, you can't deny that the humanities is something that all of us, whether we are engineers or doctors or whatever, is something that's kind of like ingrained somewhere within our persona. So, you know, you're just going to tap it out when you do it in the undergraduate. So it doesn't matter what background you come from. And being a teacher, I have students who are entering the uni. Perhaps some of them are actually watching this right now. You know, so, you know, I also like science background students to kind of do literature. So I have like this interesting bioscience combination, and they come in with great perspectives. It's like they come in with, you know, a very different perspective, and it enriches the education of the art students as well. So I think you don't really need, to me personally, I don't think you need an arts background to do an undergraduate degree in the humanities school.
Thanks, Rati. Can we have Kenneth next?
I'm going to quote Grandmaster Yoda from Star Wars: "Unlearn what you learn, you must." So so basically, right, if you study and you think that you know something, the professor in SOH will do a number on you. They'll try to reconstruct everything you believe in, and so that you can walk out the lecture theater a better person. Yeah, that's all from me.
Last but not least, can we have Jared's opinion?
Um, I actually didn't come from a GC background. I did tourism and resorts management in Ngee Ann Poly before coming over to university, and this is a question that Professor Teru, the prof who interviewed me, asked. You know, oh, you're coming from a business background, but you're coming into a philosophy program. That's so strange, right? And I think it's interesting because the good thing about the School of Humanities is that you don't really have a formal humanities training. Nobody ever does. And what's so what's so great about it is that they actually ensure that you're a good fit for the program instead of looking at your past, right? So the questions they asked me weren't how good are you in philosophy, but more so why are you interested in it, and let me see how you think through certain problems, and let me see how you analyze these things. And I think that's a great thing, is that nobody is ever ready for a humanities degree. You come here and then you are prepared for it. And so it's really the same across the board. It's not like, oh, if I did say literature in JC, or if I did say an arts program in poly, it would help me have an edge over others. The great thing is that nobody has an edge over anybody, because when you come here, like I think Kenneth said, you really unlearn everything and you question everything all over again. And I think that's really the beauty of studying humanities. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Jared. Now, I learned so much. I mean, I'm still a student here, undergrad, and I've learned so much from Prof and all three of you seniors. So, you know, if you are tuning in as a participant, waiting to hopefully get into NTU, I hope you have taken away something valuable with you as well. So with that being said, we have come to the end of this session, and thank you to Prof, Kenneth, Rati, Jared, for taking the time to join us to provide your insights. They were very, very valuable, as I've mentioned. And I would also like to thank all participants for tuning in. If you have more questions on our programs, do remember to head over to our open house microsite, where you can chat with our students, okay? And alternatively, you can also consider signing up for one of our virtual interactive sessions between 22nd Feb all the way till 26th Feb. Yes, 26th Feb, that's right. And information on these sessions can be found on the microsite as well. And with that being said, I hope all of you guys wish you all the best with your application to NTU. We are rooting for you. And yes, thank you once again. And we will see you again, hopefully. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, everybody.